of Romania. Oh, let me just double check that I was correct. Yep, that's the Black Sea. Anyway, so I am not familiar, at least not very familiar with Bucharest or Romania, but hopefully today I become slightly more familiar, at least as much as I can, from Google Earth and Wikipedia. One quick fun fact that Ghost, in his comment, his or her comment, pointed out to me was that this building is the largest government building in the world. And that is not fact-checked, but judging by the size of this thing, I don't doubt it in the slightest. And perhaps the Wikipedia page will enlighten us a little bit more. I'm not entirely sure. It looks like they have another cool looking building under construction just behind it. Yes, so looks like they still put effort into architecture in places like Bucharest, Romania. I hope I'm not butchering that pronunciation. But first things first, we're going to find out exactly how to pronounce Bucharest. Bucharest. So it seems like there's a t at the end. A t. Bucharest. Yeah. Okay, I'll try to incorporate that going forward. Bucharest. Something like that. So it says here that Bucharest was first mentioned in 1459, but it didn't become the capital until 1862. Paris of the East. I can see that. Judging by what I've seen of the city so far, I can say that it's not quite like Paris because it's not as uniform, but it has some Paris vibes, and we'll talk about that. What is this? Systematization. Program of urban planning carried out by the Romanian Communist Party under the leadership of Nicolae Ceausescu was impressed by the ideological mobilization and mass adultation in North Korea. Oh wow, wonderful. Okay. That sounds... Who's this guy? Communist politician and dictator. I've seen that picture before. I don't know where, but I'm familiar with this. 1965 to 1989, and the second and last communist leader of Romania. He was also the country's head of state from 1967. You know, in Western schools, they don't teach us anything about communism or the Soviet Union or pretty much any history from the East. It's quite slowly learning more over time. So it looks like currently there's an economic and cultural boom, and it has a growing high-tech sector. The historic city center is listed as endangered by the World Monuments Watch. Okay, so the population is almost 2 million within the city limits, but I wonder what as usual, I wonder what the metro population is. Okay, so it's only 2.3. Wow, okay. It's very, very small. It's smaller than my home city. Okay. Looks like the municipality itself has 6 mayors because it is divided into 6 sectors. That actually is probably pretty smart, to be honest with you. Otherwise, mayors tend to have too much power. They're overseeing too many people, and they tend to not be as effective. Okay, Ottomans appointed Greek administrators to run the town. In the 18th century, in 1821, there was a revolution to end the rule of Constantinople Greeks in Bucharest. Looks like it's been rebuilt a few times. What kind of natural disasters has it gone through? It honestly, it doesn't look like it's in a natural disaster kind of location, you know, but perhaps flooding from the rivers. Not sure. I didn't think that any of these countries were on a fault line, so earthquakes and volcanoes are kind of out of the question. I think in 1862, after Wallachia, Moldava were united to form the Principality of Romania, Bucharest became the new nation's capital city. In 1881, it became the political center of the newly proclaimed Kingdom of Romania under King Carol I. During the second half of the 19th century, the city's population increased dramatically and a new period of urban development began. During this period, gas lighting, horse-drawn trams, and limited electrification were introduced. Then the dam, Bovita River, was also massively channeled in 1883, thus putting a stop to previously endemic floods like 1865 flooding of Bucharest. The fortifications of Bucharest were built. The extravagant architecture and cosmopolitan high culture of this period was won Bucharest the nickname of Little Paris of the East. Okay, so it was occupied by Germans in between December 1916 and 1918. $30,000 new residents a year after World War I. access country. And then communism. Tower blocks. That's interesting. Much of the historic part of the city was demolished, replaced by socialist realism. The central civic and the palace of the parliament, for which an entire historic quarter was raised to make way for megalomaniac plans. Okay, so it was an earth. There are earthquakes. Okay, so I was wrong about that. Then there was a Romanian Revolution in 1989 to overthrow communism. The National Salvation Front is the name of a political organization that was the governing body of Romania in the first weeks after the Romanian Revolution in 1989. It subsequently became a political party and won the 1990 election under the leadership of then-President Leon Iliescu. Since 2000, the city has been modernized continuously. Okay. A lot of restoration. So here's our sectors. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, very organized. We're not going to talk about climate or the administration, really. Bucharest is 94th in quality of life, and then slipped to 108th, 107th. I don't actually believe these rankings much anymore, to be honest. I used to be slightly more fond of them because they ranked my city as quite high. I think second or something after Vienna, but I don't know if that's actually true. I bet you there's a lot better places to live. At least when it comes to the city, the quality of the city. I think, BC has other things going for it, but many neighborhoods, particularly in the southern part of the city, lack sufficient green space. High density blocks of flats. And there's many parks, okay. So it's an industrial city. So they have low unemployment. Industry and services. With services, yeah, that would be expected. Services growing over the last 10 years, especially with a tech boom. Transport, largest in Romania and one of the largest in Europe. There's trams, trolley buses, and light rail. Minibus system, that's cool. Taxi cabs. Well, I opened up the metro map here. It looks like they have quite an extensive metro system with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. Which is a lot if you ask me. Looks like they give good coverage, but from this map it's hard to tell because it's one of those simplified metro maps, but they have a lot of connections. And here's the, I think, buses, trams, and trolley buses. seems. I'm not sure. Maybe people that have been there can let me know. Let me know how the transit system is. I would assume quite excellent. Roman Orthodox Church, Eastern Orthodox. Looks Christian mostly, and Catholic. Oh, and Jewish. And Muslim. Oh, an abandoned mosque project. Orthodox National Cathedral. Yeah, that's the one that's under construction. Okay. Russian Orthodox. Okay, so mostly Christian, Catholic, Jewish. We're going to try to figure out where the communist architecture is and where the non-communist architecture is. So here we go. I think first thing to note is this kind of squiggly looking river thing that looks, is it even a river or is it a bunch of lakes? Looks like it's a river, but it sort of feeds into this canal system that goes down. Perhaps that's the water source for the city, I'm not sure. And we've also got another thing to note is if you look at the arterial roads, like this, right here, and this, they were definitely planned. You can tell that they were planned from the top down. So my guess is that these are more, correct me if I'm wrong, but they seem to be part of the communist era development, as do these here. And everything down here, this seems rather like the communist style of development. It looks like they demolished what used to either look like this or it looked like this, and they built this instead. And this might be the sector that the Wikipedia article was mentioning has a lot of towers and apartment blocks. Big major roads, whereas if you look in other areas it's narrower streets. I'm not sure if you can hear. I got a dog in the room with me. He's breathing every now and then. Wow, okay, this sector here has a lot of buildings as well. It looks very top-down, planned, same here. You can tell that policies have influenced the way that this has been developed, whereas over here you can tell it's a little less policy-led, more organic. But then again, who am I? Okay, this just looks organic right here. Much more organic still have sidewalks, that's nice. Some crosswalks. Altogether, it doesn't, seems okay. Is this a cemetery? Yes, it appears so. So, the communists did not disturb the cemetery. You got some streetcar tram tracks here. And that tram runs on grass. That's kind of nice, actually. What is this? Big industrial factories or something. Maybe it's greenhouses or something. It looks like they destroyed a lot of homes to make room for this industrial yard. Perhaps that was in the Soviet era too, I'm not entirely sure. And you got more here. A lot of industrial development over here. What is this, like a Costco? Or the equivalent, looks like a shopping mall. They even have Jisk. We have Jisk here where I'm from. Decathlon. Diego. Metro. IKEA. Of course. Of course they have IKEA. You know, this sports stadium reminds me of one we have at home where I'm from, BC Place. Very similar architecture. I'm just gonna pop over there just to take a look at it. So, this is a retractable roof in the middle, and it looks almost like a lot of people are calling it a pincushion. Let me just see how it compares again to the one in Romania, Bucharest. If I can find it back, I will. I will find it back. There it is. You know, it doesn't look exactly the same, but it has a similar feel to it, you know. So I imagine that, well, look at this, it looks like a concert, but I imagine that this is why it gets the nickname of Little Paris of the East, because of these grand boulevards with the trees beautiful. However, the buildings, although they are symmetrical, they are not quite as nice looking as the Parisian ones. They seem a little bit more utilitarian. This is really cool. An underpass for the through traffic, while the above ground traffic has a few intersections. It looks like a major node. I wonder if they have any highways. It does look like they do a pretty good job of separating the roads from the streets. At least in some places. Okay, so they have what appears to be kind of like a highway, in that there are lots of traffic lights, but there are also lots of these large interchange areas where the road goes underneath the crossing road and there is a circle on top, or an intersection on top. I find that quite nice, although these spaces are quite large. I wonder if people spend a lot of time in this space, or if it's just here for looks, essentially, because I can see lots of tram tracks on here. This looks very, like, I would be very confused driving through there, or walking for that matter. If anyone knows what the street culture, the etiquette is like in Romania, please let me know in the comments, because I know in some countries there's completely different etiquette for pedestrians. Where I'm from, pedestrians always have right of way. If you hit a pedestrian with a vehicle, you are held liable for that. You are held accountable. Whereas in other places in the world, you could run across the street and get hit by a car, and you would be to blame. And the culture is just very much like anti-pedestrian or pro-car. So you can sort of force your way through. Like you would have to play almost like a game of Frogger to get across the street. Oh, yes. Romania is in the European Union, as far as I can tell. And this, I believe, is the European Union flag, so that kind of confirms that belief of mine. There's some cool looking housing going up here. I kind of want to see this from street view. Oh, this is nice. I really like this area better than the other area. Of course, there's a Starbucks. It looks like Romania. They even have bike lanes. Look at this. Looks like they are doing quite well for themselves. Honestly, this is so much better than like a standard American city. There's so much more life going trees. Looks like it might be more one of the rougher parts of town. Again, I'm not sure. Big train station here. Where are we? Okay, we're in the northwestern side of the downtownish kind of area. There's a cool bridge here. It's very cool. It's a road bridge, but it's also a metro bridge. That's very cool. Good design. At least it looks good to me. There's our first, like, real highway, it seems. But it ends about here. Okay, yeah. Nice looking bridge there. It comes over here. Some good connections. And it comes right back down. Okay. So it's not a real full-blown highway, but it's good enough. Every city's gotta have some expressways. What are the more rural areas looking like? Or maybe, perhaps this would be more considered like a suburb. I don't know. Perhaps this is rural, perhaps this is suburban, but looks like they still have some dirt roads out here. I wonder what the commie blocks feel like deep in the commie blocks. Well, at least they're uniform, you know. And they have a lot of street trees, which, you know, you gotta hand it to them for that. I imagine it's hard, or at least moderately hard, to walk around here because the streets are not predictable. Let me just check. I could be wrong. Let's pull out our man here. Okay, so the blue lines are the streets. So yeah, they're not super predictable. Which I would find unless you know the area, you're gonna have trouble walking through. I guess Google Maps helps with that a lot. Same goes over here, I think. A little less so. It looks like it's a little bit more predictable. I would enjoy walking around here. There's plenty of trees, which, honestly, trees are number one. Looks like there's a tunnel here as well to go underneath this. And this is a shopping mall of sorts. Interesting fusion or contrast between like the old tiny neighborhoods, the big commie blocks, and the big box American style malls. I wonder what this reminds me of Paris again with the I don't know if you watched that video, but I saw an airport and big industrial area that had sort of strangled got a stranglehold on this little old medieval organic neighborhood, and that's kind of the same feeling I get with this area here. I wonder what this marsh is. Got a little tower block development that looks almost, kind of looks like towers in the park. It has elements of like Corbusian modernism, but then also kind of looks more recent. Like definitely you could tell these were built recently. Because of the colors and the style, and the lack of street view, like real street view. Okay. Yeah. I wonder if there's a metro station in there, because they only have this little tiny access road. Oh, I guess they have this road here too. This looks like it might be a reservoir or like an overflow reservoir. If you look at the concrete here, it could be for flooding. I'm not sure. Got some farmland here. More organic development. Hey, look at that. They have sidewalks. That's nice. That post looks like it's made of cinder blocks. That's really, that's different. I wonder if anyone in the comments can tell me how Romania is doing with the pandemic. Currently in my country, they're introducing vaccine passports and mask mandates again, more lockdowns and things like that. I wonder how Romania is doing, whether they acknowledge, like whether, not acknowledge, that's the wrong word, like, I heard in Amsterdam many months ago they were already living as if the pandemic was over. I'm not sure if it's because they were all vaccinated or what. Or maybe they're just super organized, but I wonder how Romania is doing. So let me know if you know. Look at this, some more commie blocks surrounding these central intersections. Honestly, this city looks like it's got a lot of layers to it. A lot of fingers out into the countryside as well. There's a lot of different areas. You can tell from above just how distinct the difference is between the space between the arterials and the arterials, and then these massive blocks. And the fact that they're on the outskirts more not as much in the main city means that you can kind of see the layers of development and what era the development occurred in time. There's also an airport up here, which I haven't actually looked at yet. It looks quite small. Very small. Just 2 runways and a small terminal. Some traffic circles. I wonder if it was built by the Soviets, not Soviets, by the actually, yeah, this was a Soviet state, wasn't it? Yeah. Forgive me for not really knowing my history. As I said, I'm learning more every day. Let's Bucharest Airport. One more time. Bucharest. Bucharest. Okay. Bucharest. World War II. It's been expanded. Okay. Looks like they're planning to expand it some more. A bunch of airlines use it. Okay. Romania's busiest international airport. So it looks like it was built for World War II. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, that's not super important. Yeah, I'm just fascinated by the layers. Look at this ring road as well. Oh, there's even what looks to be some highway construction out here. Let's follow this. Okay. With a traffic circle, with a bypass. Okay. Connects to here. Okay. Interesting. I wonder if that means that there will be a lot of suburban development out along the highway. Because if this was in the United States, as soon as you build a highway like this out into the outskirts of a city, kind of coming out, a lot of homes will start to be built around it. And I just wonder if the planning policies are in place to restrict that or keep that from occurring. Anyway, I think I have exhausted everything on my mind